When most gardeners think of compost, they imagine a pile of decomposing scraps turning into dark, earthy soil. But what happens when you introduce worm castings that have been aged and preserved using ancient methods? I recently ran a test using these historically inspired worm castings in container gardens, and the results were astonishing, almost unreal. Plants that usually struggle in pots flourished like they were in rich garden beds, leaves grew darker and glossier, and fruit yields were way beyond expectations. For anyone growing in limited space, from urban balconies to indoor setups, these ancient techniques may be the missing link between mediocre container crops and truly exceptional harvests. Ancient worm castings weren't just fertilizer, they were living soil. Worm castings have always been prized for their nutrient density, but the ancients had a deeper understanding. They didn't just let worms eat organic matter, they carefully managed the inputs, the moisture, and the fermentation cycles to create a microbial powerhouse. This living soil not only fed plants, but supported a thriving ecosystem of bacteria and fungi that aided nutrient uptake, disease resistance, and overall plant health. In practice, this means that even in a small container, adding properly prepared worm castings can transform the soil from a passive medium into an active, self-regulating environment. When I layered age castings into my containers, I noticed the soil structure remained light yet cohesive. Water retention improved and roots penetrated far deeper than in standard potting mixes. Before adding the worm castings, I ensured my containers were properly aerated and had excellent drainage. Ancient gardeners understood that even nutrient-rich soil fails if roots suffocate or water pools. I layered a thin base of coarse material, added a blend of standard potting mix, and topped it with the worm castings. Over the next few weeks, the microbial activity became apparent. A faint, earthy aroma indicated active decomposition, and tiny fungal threads began weaving through the soil, supporting nutrient cycling. For backyard gardeners, a similar approach works wonders. Even just mixing a portion of worm castings into existing soil can dramatically boost fertility and plant vigor, especially in containers where nutrients are easily washed away. Within days, seedlings showed deeper green coloration, stronger stems, and rapid root development. By the second week, I noticed that leaves were shinier and more resilient, and the plants appeared less stressed under direct sunlight. It was as if the ancient worm castings rewired the container's soil ecosystem, making nutrients immediately available while simultaneously building long-term fertility. This rapid response underscores the importance of using living amendments rather than relying solely on synthetic fertilizers, which feed plants chemically but do nothing for the soil structure or microbial life. One of the most impressive outcomes was how well the soil retained moisture. You know, container gardens often dry out quickly and require frequent watering, but the ancient worm castings created a balance. The soil remained fluffy yet moist, absorbing water and releasing it slowly to the roots. Plants experienced less stress and, well, I could water less frequently without affecting growth. For practical application, this means incorporating worm castings into containers not only feeds plants, but also improves water efficiency, a critical advantage for urban gardeners and anyone dealing with limited water access. Unlike modern synthetic boosters, these worm castings didn't just deliver nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. They carried a complex matrix of micronutrients, beneficial bacteria and enzymes that enhanced natural soil chemistry. Foliar quality, flowering and fruiting all improved dramatically, demonstrating that the ancients' holistic approach to soil health is directly relevant to today's container gardening challenges. I also experimented with small periodic top dressings of the castings, lightly incorporating them into the surface. Plants continued to thrive, showing that even in small quantities this amendment is highly effective. Ancient worm casting techniques highlight that soil health isn't just about adding nutrients, it's about fostering life in the soil. Containers are especially challenging because roots are confined, nutrients deplete quickly, and microbial activity can lag. By adopting historically inspired worm casting practices, you can recreate a resilient soil ecosystem, leading to stronger plants, higher yields, and more sustainable gardening overall. For anyone interested in maximizing the productivity of limited spaces, experimenting with these castings is both practical and surprisingly simple. It's a reminder that centuries of agricultural wisdom still hold immense value today. If you found this experiment with ancient worm castings fascinating and want to see how they can transform your own container gardens, subscribe to Hydrohaven, share it with fellow gardeners and start growing stronger, healthier plants using methods that have stood the test of time.